in the earlier talk. I have outlined in the earlier talk the first stage of psychosocial maturity. Just to recapitulate, I said that we have taken the TAT stories written by Indian managers to Harvard and analyzed them in the year 1975 under the guidance of Abigail Stewart and David McClellan of Harvard University to identify the motivational content of these stories. The content revealed that the stories fell into one of the four different stages of psychosocial maturity. Psychosocial maturity depicted by the kind of characters the writer of the story depicts in his or her story, and what the characters are engaged in doing, saying, thinking, and so on. If in the story the characters are depicted as concerned or obsessed with use of the mouth, which means obsessed with talking a lot, obsessed with deriving pleasure out of oral gratification. This is the kind of a stage that is parallel to Sigmund Freud's oral kind of a stage. And this has been found to be quite a characteristic of benevolent leaders or charismatic leaders. Charismatic leaders derive a lot of pleasure from talking, directing, giving guidance, suggestions, and without their knowledge, they may make the people who work with them dependent. It is like a parental obsession with being affectionate, being a giver, being a very resourceful person whose job is to take care of the needs of the juniors or needs of the children and so on. So this is the stage one in psychosocial maturity. In stage two, which is derived out of the anal stage of Sigmund Freud. Anal stage is a stage where a lot of toilet training takes place with children. A disciplining takes place. The child is told what to do, what not to do, what is allowed, not allowed, and things like that. So it is a stage which is parallel to, in the leadership styles, critical stage. Critical stage where the leader is sees himself or herself as a authority figure, disciplining, criticizing, reprimanding, directing, and so on. So this comes out of a high sense of personal power, and we term this as a critical kind of a stage. Or these are the kind of leaders who probably, when they were children, had very good toilet training, or I think enjoyed uh, the this particular kind of a stage of being orderly and maintaining everything in order, and later developed a system or a psychic kind of a disposition where they like everything to be put in order, no indiscipline is tolerated, there is only a set way of doing things, and so on and so forth. So these kinds of leaders are called critical leaders in our kind of sense. They don't tolerate mistakes. They set goals according to their own likes and dislikes, and they are pretty dominating. And people who work with these kinds of leaders are likely to develop feelings of incompetence and feelings of inadequacy. However, these kind of leaders are quite good in certain circumstances, like when there is high discipline required and so on. The third stage is a stage which we actually dropped when we translated into leadership styles. But this is an assertiveness stage where the child asserts himself or herself against the parents. So this is the stage which is associated with counterdependence. We did not find in many of the stories this particular part. Probably a part of this is subsumed in the earlier two stages of oral and anal kind of stages. The fourth stage, parallel to the genital stage of Sigmund Freud, which is a well-developed differentiating stage, is what we call in the leadership styles as a developmental style, or the high maturity level, where the leader is able to differentiate what is good and what is not good, and is able to take care, set goals according to the competencies of people, reward people who deserve it, and create a kind of a learning atmosphere, and believes that people should essentially take care of themselves. So this particular style, sometimes in the earlier stages we called it as a self-dispensing style, or a style where uh, you treat your juniors as fairly developed people, empower them, help them to learn, and become a kind of a facilitator. We call this as a developmental style. High emotional intelligence is related to this, in the sense that, as David McClellan wrote in his article, Power is the Great Motivator. These are the people who have a high sense of inhibition, who knows when to express their anger, or when to express whatever feelings of warmth, etc., they have, and when not to express it, so on. So these are the people highly self-controlled, and they work with purpose, and they are institution builders and so on. So these are the four styles that we discovered. These styles can be measured using TAT stories. These styles can also be applied when you examine the thought process of an individual, the behaviors of an individual, or you can even analyze the story or the character according, and place the person into one of the four, or particularly one of the three. Either the person derives a lot of pleasure by using mouth, which is talking, or by directing others and disciplining, which is a critical style, or by empowering others, which is the development style, and so on. So I hope these thoughts are useful. If you want to have actually look at the way the TAT stories are measured, we have the Stewart Maturity scale. Earlier it used to be available from Mansine, but in case you are interested, do write to me at tvrao